Am I the a-hole for laughing in my sister-in-law's face when she DNA tested my daughter? Plus, update. Original post, I-30M, have a daughter who's 6. I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for most all of my childhood. We were never involved romantically and were always just friends. She had her daughter at 23 with her 25-year-old husband. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months technically, both her mother and father were killed. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but it was workplace shooting. My friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were both killed. Both my friend and her husband had grown up with less than ideal families and didn't have any siblings, so there wasn't any next of kin for their daughter to go to. However, because I was close with them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been iffy about the idea of kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or around people who didn't have a connection to her bio parents, so I stepped in. My parents and siblings know that my daughter is not my actual daughter biologically speaking. My daughter, I'll call Lily for the post, also knows that she's adopted. I never really hid the fact that she was adopted. She knows her parents are dead and were killed by a bad man. But I'm saving the details for when she's older. Lily does not look like me at all. She looks exactly like her mother and biological dad. Most people assume that I'm her bio dad and that she just took after her mom. I don't ever really correct this when and if people assume this, because it just seems unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now. A few weeks ago, we were all meeting up at my parents' house, and my sister-in-law saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, and I explained that was Lily's mother. Sister-in-law got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while. I didn't think much of it. To clarify, she knows my friend died, but I guess didn't know that she had been married or that Lily is not my bio daughter. I suppose she assumed my daughter was mine and my friend's biological daughter. My sister-in-law got a DNA test done on my daughter behind my back. She used my brother's DNA for the test, and when it came back that they weren't related, she knew that meant me and Lily weren't related. She came up to me with the results and waved them in my face, saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. She said this to me in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting out laughing at this. I told her I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter, and that this thing called adoption exists. Her face went red and she stormed off. My brother is mad I embarrassed his fiancée, but I said she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a kid that isn't hers and then parading the results up to me. What did she want me to do? What was her goal with this? Did she want me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother said she thought she was doing the right thing and called me an asshole. I don't feel like the asshole, especially considering my sister-in-law was the one who stuck her nose where it doesn't belong. I'm asking for Reddit opinions, mostly just for validation. So, was I the asshole? Now for the updates. Update 1. My sister-in-law ended up coming to my house and apologizing, as well as telling me the full story. My brother put her up to the DNA test. When I first adopted Lily, my brother for some reason believed that Lily was my bio daughter. He thought that me and Lily's mom were together and just weren't telling anyone. He believes that when she got pregnant, Lily's mom told me that Lily was mine and that she was going to just say that it was her husband's, and I went along with it because I didn't really want kids. Sister-in-law was under the impression I believed I was Lily's bio dad. She saw the picture of Lily's mom and I, and after asking for clarification on who she was, assumed we were together in it, and then got suspicious when she saw that the other guy in the picture, Lily's actual bio dad, looked a lot like Lily. I also want to clarify, I didn't tell her that Lily's bio dad was in the picture because she had specifically pointed to Lily's mom, and I assumed she knew that Lily was adopted. I didn't know my brother had been telling her lied for nearly 2 years. She got the DNA test out of her own suspicions, and my brother helped her with it because he thought it would reveal that I was actually Lily's bio dad. He manipulated her into thinking that it would clear the air of suspicion, when really he was just trying to prove that I was really Lily's bio dad and lying about the reasons for adoption. Well, of course, the results proved I wasn't Lily's bio dad, and that my brother was wrong. My brother felt too embarrassed to confess to his fiancée that he had lied about the circumstances, which is why sister-in-law confronted me with the results. My sister-in-law also apologized for showing me the results in front of my daughter. She told me that her mom had an affair and cheated on her father, got pregnant with another man's kid, and had let her father believe the kid was his. Her father was devastated by this when he found out, and she grew very resentful of women who do that to their spouses. She had wanted to sit me down and talk to me about it without my daughter. But when she saw me with my daughter, she got angry, thinking I was being led on to believe I was raising my daughter when I was actually raising another man's kid, and she ended up exploding and immediately waved the results in my face. My sister-in-law does feel very guilty, and she's angry at my brother for lying to her. I'm not angry at her for doing the test because she thought she was doing the right thing. I also forgave her for the way she told me about the results, because clearly affairs are a sensitive subject for her, and I can understand why she would have exploded like that. I'm pretty sure she plans to break up with my brother now, and I don't blame her. When I called and asked my brother about this, he admitted it. When I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at the time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. He told sister-in-law that I was Lily's bio dad and was aware of the fact. He took it a step further and said that me and Lily's mom were together at the time of Lily's conception. Both me and my parents are going low contact with my brother for a while now. I know I will forgive my brother eventually, but I can't do that right now. He believed I was low enough to have an affair with a married woman, get her pregnant, take no responsibility, allow her to pass off the kid as another man's, and then only take responsibility because her mom died. Update 2. Sister-in-law is now ex-sister-in-law. I don't know if multiple updates are allowed for this sub. If not, take this down and I'll post to my profile. Some people were wondering what happened with my brother and sister-in-law. Well, she dumped him. They tried to make it work, but that only lasted a few days and she ended up giving him the ring back. My brother got shit-faced drunk on my front lawn in the middle of the night. I was pissed because Lily had school the next morning and this woke her up. My brother was yelling insults to both me and my daughter. We called police and he spent the night in jail for drunken disturbance. I believe the official charge was something like that. I sure as hell pressed charges because he was saying some borderline threatening statements to me and my daughter. I don't think it's enough to qualify for a restraining order, but if it is, I'll get a temporary one. On a more positive note, Lily is doing well. She's getting straight A's in even subject and is excited about her first ever science project. She's been talking my ear off about it. Send help, lol. Story 2. Updated. I, 23F, have always had intense toxic relationships. Finally in a healthy relationship with a great guy, 26 smiles, and no idea if what I'm feeling is normal. Original post. So, I've never had a healthy relationship. My first and longest relationship was a codependent mess which had insane highs and crashing lows. I deeply loved him, obsessed over him, even though in hindsight he treated me terribly, and of course it ended disastrously, taking me years to get over. I've tried dating other guys since then, but either they weren't interested and just used me for sex, or I'd realize I was just using them for validation and nothing ever lasted. I eventually gave up on dating, and up until recently I'd been happily single for about a year. A few weeks ago I met someone at a uni class and we really hit it off. We were just friends initially, but eventually started dating. We're getting pretty intimate and I genuinely enjoy being around him. But I'm not really sure if I like him that much or if I'm forcing it. But because of my terrible dating history, I've realized that I actually have no idea what it feels like to be in a healthy relationship. The thing is, he's smart and funny and super nice and actually likes me. He genuinely listens to me. He cares about my interests and remembers things I've told him. And he doesn't play arbitrary relationship games, all of which I'm not used to in the slightest. However, I don't feel like I like him as much as I should. I certainly do like him and I love hanging out with him, and the romantic, intimate stuff is pretty good. But compared to past relationships, as disastrous as they were, this one feels almost boring in comparison. I don't crave to be with him, I don't get wild fireworks when he kisses me, I don't feel my heart flutter when I get a text from him. I do feel a strong sense of affection that's almost a weird mix of close friendship and this guy is a dork, and I really like kissing him. And for the first time ever, I almost prefer just hanging out in his kitchen and making dinner together to being intimate, which is totally opposite to past relationships that were mostly built around sex. So I've been wondering how much of that lack of intensity is due to him not being right for me, or if it's because he is right for me. Maybe I don't get fireworks when we kiss, because he freely kisses me all the time without making me work for it. Maybe my heart doesn't flutter when he texts, because I know he'll always text back without making me wait for hours on end. Maybe I don't constantly think about him and crave his presence because I know he'll be there when I need him. Maybe the intensity isn't there because I don't have to fight for his attention or walk on eggshells or agonize about him not being there for me. I know I feel a sense of warmth, of contentment when I think about him, and when we're together there's not really anywhere else I'd rather be. Maybe that's enough? I know it's early days, but he's already expressed a strong interest in me, and I feel like my feelings aren't quite matched to his. Should I be feeling more intensely about him? Or is this just what being in a healthy relationship feels like? Now for the update. A few months ago, I wrote about dating an actually stable guy after only having toxic relationships. The post got more traction than I expected, so I figured it might be nice to do an update. Thank you so much to everyone who replied to my post. All the replies really helped. As it turns out, the guy I was seeing found the Reddit post, clicked that it was me, and talked to me about it. Turns out he actually felt the same way in terms of low intensity, but he liked that. And I decided to keep dating him for as long as we kept having fun together. Well, I'm happy to say that last week we celebrated being together for 6 months, and that we are quite madly in love with each other. After we talked, I took the advice of some of the commenters and tried to just enjoy my time with him, instead of worrying about the depth of my feelings. I soon realized that he's a kind, thoughtful, intelligent person, and we totally get each other. He makes me laugh with the most inane stuff, and he thinks my dumb jokes are funny too. We can talk for hours and hours about anything at all, and I rarely feel like I have to justify or explain my point of view at all. He just understands me. One of the first times I knew I was really falling in love, we were chatting in bed, and suddenly it was 3 in the morning, and I realized we'd been chatting for 3 hours without a single awkward pause. I've rarely had that with anyone else, and never with a previous boyfriend. I think most of the commenters were right. My other longest relationships were all built around toxic intensity and wild passion, and while this relationship definitely isn't lacking in the bedroom, I'd say it's much more built on a sort of close friendship and respect for each other. It's certainly not as filled with longing and deep passion as other relationships I've had, but honestly, I prefer being with him. I feel like I have not just someone to go out with or to cuddle up to, but a genuine life partner. Somebody who supports me, who I can talk to about anything, someone who makes me want to be a better person. It just took me a while to realize how much better that calmer, more peaceful love is, instead of the roller coaster to intensely toxic relationships, and I almost made the mistake of thinking that it was boring and throwing it away. I really just needed time to get used to dating someone who doesn't play games and displays his affection openly and frequently. We did have some slight issues with communication to start with, mainly me being afraid to bring issues up, suggest things because of other boyfriends overreacting terribly in the past. But after we talked a lot, he's been very supportive and proven himself to be a mature enough adult that he can handle occasional criticism without getting super defensive. It's been really refreshing to be in such a drama-free relationship where we can argue or talk about issues in a really healthy way. Thank you to everyone who replied. You all helped a lot, and I'm really glad I took your advice and didn't just break up with him. I love him a lot, and I can see us being together a long time. Thanks.